live with this platform. Yeah, but it's a beautiful, sunny, cold Sunday in Botswana today. But then I think we've been taught in everything we give thanks. So, good afternoon, our listeners. Welcome to the Happiness Tribe podcast. And I'm not going to take my official host voice. I'm just going to pass the mic to her, but then let me do the honors of introducing myself, Miss Kim. As always, happy to join you again with a very interesting topic. I'll pass on the mic to my co-hosts, my two beautiful ladies. Thank you.
Blessed day, everyone. Blessed day. Thank you so much, Miss Kim. My name is Miss Paula. Just call me Miss Paula. I am part of the Happiness Tribe. I'm coming to you today from the beautiful country of Belize in Central America, for those who don't know. Most people think it's an island. It's not, it's in Central America. And today we are going to be discussing a very, very interesting topic. But before I get started with that, I just wanted to remind the audience, thank you so much. This is the Happiness Tribe podcast. We're here every Sunday. Last week, last week we had a conversation, a very interesting conversation um, about doubt, you know, about hesitation, self doubt. How does that work? So, this is the second week in a series of this podcast of 10. We hope to accomplish 10 of them. And this week, we're speaking about the fear of failure. What does that look like? Do we even know when we're afraid? How does it show up in our lives? What impact does it have? We're going to attempt to unpack that discussion today. Thank you so much, Sister Yodit, for being here, for being our teacher and our guide as usual. Before we get started with this, I really would like Sister Yodit to introduce herself. And Miss Kim's already introduced herself, and we have a couple of other family members who may or may not show up. We know there's weather in the United States, there's weather in different parts of the world. There are lots of things that are going on. So keep it pushing and we keep the conversation going. Sister Yodit, can you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure thing. Sure thing. Thank you, Miss Paula, and thank you, Miss Kim. Hello, everyone. My name is Yodi, and I am joining you from Gaborone, Botswana, which is in southern Africa. And yes, it is a lovely afternoon, but it's cold, which is why I'm dressed the way that I am, but I'm still cold. But yes, we are going to discuss a very interesting topic, Miss Paula, and I'm looking forward to it. I think, a different view from what possibly has been expressed previously about, the fear of failure and not necessarily that being a negative thing. So I'm looking forward to your guidance on this subject, Miss Paula, and to also hear Miss Kim's views on it. We all come from the happiness tribe, but from very different backgrounds and experiences. So I think our experiences will show up, or rather, we will depend on our experiences to discuss this particular subject on fear of failure. Thank you, Ms. Paula.
Thank you so much, Sister Yoda. I keep forgetting you all are down under. It's cold, and over here we're sweltering. It is 88 degrees, but it's almost 90% humidity. So it's just pretty hot. Those people who are ill, for the elderly, for the disabled, it's quite a bit. It's quite a bit to deal with, but we're dealing with it. So this week topic again, fear of failure, with a subtext of the hidden gatekeeper. Why a hidden gatekeeper? Because normally fear, things that we're afraid of, things that make us really nervous and lock us into a particular way of thinking, usually happens in the background. We don't even know it's there. But it regulates our lives. It shows up in our lives in different ways. Some of the personal challenges that happens with fear running in the background of our lives, it's like an operating system exists in the background of your computer, in this case of your life, and you don't even know it's taking over. So the attempt today really is for us to bring this concept, to bring it into life, to create awareness about fear and how it operates most times in our background operating system as a hidden gatekeeper. Every master was once a beginner who dared to fail. So for us, failure really is a stair step to success. So some of the personal challenges that most of us seem to encounter in fear, and it does show up in different ways in different people's lives. So by no means are we saying this is the only way that it shows up in your life, in individuals' lives, but these are some of the common things. Avoiding risk. Are you someone that just at any expense you'd avoid risk? You will not take risk. You're a very low risk taker, don't like it, don't want to engage it. Or are you someone who avoid risk and is not really aware? Maybe it shows up in a different way in the self-talk in your head. Maybe your operating system presents it in a different light. But for most of us, it's avoiding risk. It's perfectionism for some of us. I know I have that really, really bad. That my greatest challenge is perfectionism. Why is it that I get stuck in, oh my, it's got to be absolutely perfect. That one grain of hair is out of place. I'm gonna crazy. I've been working on this over the years. I think much better at it, but I think for me, I have taken my perfectionism, vanity, I call it, and have been attempting to transmute that kind of a maybe negative side to it or counterproductive to it, and is trying to turn it into a way of pursuing excellence, looking at the details, being deep, understanding what I can do to make it better. So for me, it's an uphill battle, but I'm seeking to, because I recognize this in myself. I seek to use as a prompt for pursuing excellence and doing things in a way that is satisfied with without going over. The other way that this shows up in our life is paralysis. Have you ever been in a position where you knew that you had something to do, but you just, for the life of you, you just get up the courage, the energy to even engage in starting to do it? Paralysis. People get it when they're creatives, get this a lot sometimes. Book writers, I hear book writers speak about the time how they just go blank, don't know what to do, don't have an idea, concept. But we're speaking here about paralysis to the degree that one can't make a decision or make an active decision to engage whatever it is they're attempting to do or set out to do. It comes across pulling where, I know I need to jump off, but I can't. I'm jumping for dear life. Anything that you've ever experienced, either of you, Miss Kim or Sister Yoda, either, go ahead.
Miss Kim is just staring at me. So let me let me take a stab at it, Miss Paula. As you were speaking, I had a flashback. Um, and this is when so the story is it's when I first joined a corporate entity many years ago, about 17, 18 years ago. And I was given the responsibility of writing a speech for a very important individual who was going to be representing or speaking at an event where the entity that I worked for was launching something quite new. I had never written a speech before in my life. And so I took it on and I did the research. I sat and spoke to people about the subject matter. When the time came for me to present the speech to my line manager, I had nothing. I had nothing because literally could not write the speech. It was paralysis to an extent where even asking myself, but wait a minute, I've got this degree, I've got that degree, I read, I write. I could not write this speech because, and the main reason is because I did not understand at that time the concept of writing a speech for somebody else. Because I said, I don't know what he wants to say. I mean, I could put together a certain part of it, yes, because, the subject that I was responsible for. But my mind could not wrap I could not wrap my mind around this reality that, in fact, a lot of people have their speeches written for them and they read it. So I really struggled with it. And sitting in front of my line manager it was a terrible engagement because I didn't know what to say to her. I was new on the job. I was still being watched, to make sure that I was going to
Mhm.
cut it. So this did not go well. And I remember there was a deal of frustration, and I think it had to be it had to be outsourced or whatever, but I failed. I literally failed. I could not do it. Now, fast forward 16, 17 years later, if you ask me to write a speech for anyone, it's not a big deal. So part of it was paralysis, but I think it was paralysis because I was nervous because the speech was for somebody who's very important, but because I literally could not comprehend the request. So it's a difficult one. I did not extract myself out of it. I failed. And I had to admit to my line manager that I had failed this task. I couldn't do it. And it wasn't easy, but I think because because time, and she was a little bit forgiving to say, okay, it's okay, you failed this time, but let's move on and see what happens next time. So I was given opportunities again. But just now when I thought about it, it's like, my goodness, it was an issue for me, and I didn't like the feeling that I got after that experience. But yeah,
Sister
that's my
Yodit,
one yep.
I'm sorry to interrupt you and jump in your throat.
Okay.
This is such a perfect example. So let's unpack that a little because I think that's an excellent case study. Really quick,
Okay.
was it that you
Sure.
were afraid of being judged, or was it just, I'm only speaking about the underlying fear? Was it just afraid of failing because you weren't sure what it was this person who you're supposed to be writing this script for wanted to say? Or was it about how people would perceive you? Because this is something that I find that happens quite a bit. So what do you
Mm.
think the underlying fear was? What was triggering this fear?
So, okay, so the fact that I actually allowed it to proceed the way it did, in other words, where I went and said, I can't do this, meant that as much as I was, yet there was an element of fear because I didn't know what the response was going to be. I'd failed to do something that was a big deal, right? Um, but I had the courage to step up and say, I can't do this. I couldn't do it. I haven't written anything that's worth anybody reading. The paralysis, though, why was I unable to write? That's what I'm saying. I think I can only attribute it to the fact that I literally did not know. I didn't know how to. Speech writing isn't something I had done before. I didn't have the training for it. I'd never had to do it before. Whatever I had to say in my previous job, if I had to say something in front of people, I did it for myself. I didn't have anybody to write speeches for me. So it was a very alien concept at the time. Um, was I fearful of what people were going to say about what I'd written? Probably because I wasn't sure what to write. So I suspect that had something to do with it as well. Because I did the research. I spoke to people who'd written speeches before, and I just couldn't get it. So I don't know if I answered your question, Miss Paula, but
You
it was,
did.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you did, Sister Yodit. And Ms. Kim, I'm gonna come to you in just a second, but I think this is, for me, this is so pivotal because I'm thinking of how I've stood in a stadium and spoke in front of, I'm clear, thousands of people, and yet I have an absolute trepidation for social media. It's like, and I cannot, life of me, I'm being honest, I don't know why. It's like, it seems so, I don't know, maybe it seems so impersonal or sort of, I don't know, communicating in the air, kind of. It's weird. I really don't understand what it is. And I say to myself, well, maybe I'm afraid they're judging me. But I thought, and I was like, but you can do that in front of people. What is the difference? And for me, I think it's more of this invisible, there are people looking at you, but you can't see them. I don't know. It's weird. So anyway, I wanted to explore that, because imagine the person that has the capacity to be a major public speaker, that has something to say, or the book to write, or a movie, and won't do it because they think, oh, no one wants to hear that. Nobody cares about that, or it doesn't matter, or I'm going to get judged so awful. People are going to jump all over me. Imagine that. So I know you've talked about this quite a bit, Miss Kim. So please enlighten us. What is your experience with this?
I don't even know which one to pick because I've failed so many times.
Ah,
I have failed again and again and again. And I think and this goes back, I think, to parenting, how we raise our kids, the self-esteem we instill in them, the confidence. Because I was a very confident child, like literally, I believed the world existed because I did.
I can see that. I love it.
And I had awesome parents that reminded me again and again, you matter, you're gorgeous, you're brilliant, you can do anything. And I lived it and I acted it, I did it. Especially I was successful when I was very young. I was making a lot of money in my 20s, 30s. I was flying around the world. So how would you get me to understand what is failure? Whether it's financially, relationship wise, I was on top of the world. But when Mr. Failure knocked on my door, didn't stop. And even then, it doesn't mean that I didn't have things that didn't go as planned. But so what? That couldn't fuzz me. It just, yeah, I submitted a project, I didn't get it, I move on. I didn't have like those moments that it should take me another 3, 4 days to recover. Until then, my life went downhill and I failed and I picked myself again and I failed and I picked and I failed and I lost my self esteem, which is what now building it and coming back, it's an uphill task, which makes me blend in the fear of failure, the fear of gatekeeping with self esteem. Because once that hits you, once you start thinking, I don't matter, I'm not good enough, I don't fit in that room, I can speak, I don't have a chair at that table, I can speak when they're speaking, I can submit this proposal because I'm not good enough. It's a horrible thing. And it takes time to build it again. I can't even say I'm yet there. I've never been scared of people. It's not in me. You're the president, you're the king. It's not in me. But I saw with my fear. I actually remember it was my mom who went like, I can't imagine you're talking how many times you met so and so. Because it was a big deal. And my mom is just saying, like, this doesn't sound like my child. So what? There was a very huge, I can't remember what it's called. It's a very, very huge Japan organization that does a very huge conference in Africa. And I went there and I went in and I spoke. I think it was the Prime Minister of Japan, a very senior person. That was a tall order to me, which has never ever been. So, and I think that's when my mom started noticing the cracks in the daughter. I had a lot that was going on in my life then. And obviously, sometimes parents, I think they just have intuitions. Even if you don't say it, they can see. And then I'll start asking everybody twice, do you think I should go for this meeting dressed like this? Am I looking good enough? what do you think about this presentation? Can I speak? Can I say, I stole so and so this? I also started this thing of before I get on any idea, I will go to 50 towns consulting. So the doubt was so deep. The second guessing myself, the imposter syndrome. It was so deep. It was so like making very the usual decisions that you just make that you don't need to ask, like almost literally asking, do you think I should make this meal for my children? Was it good enough? Do you think my kids are happy with me? Very mundane things that on a normal day could not worry me. And that was the trigger, like things are not fine. And I had to start working on myself to deal with that. However, I don't know if I think when we're in our 20s and in our 30s, we're generally not fearful. Like you can see with a lot of Gen Z and things that they're capable of doing. I think also as we age, maybe if things, well, they say in most cases, most of us, by the time we hit our 40s, something has happened to us. So when that happens to us, if your anchors are not alert, you can take a dip. But I feel like it's something that we work on and surmount stronger. And then as we accelerate to our 50s, we just go like, so what if my hair is gray?
You just
I
had to
think
use that
the fear,
example.
the fear just goes and sort of just grow to just be so comfortable in our skin. There were things that were so embarrassing to me to be seen doing. Things like just even a cheap car. I hate to say it. Who am I to be seen driving a cheap car? And with time, those things are just like, those are just things. So what? I can't be seen doing this and that. And I think with age also wisdom comes and we settle, we mellow. So that's my journey. So many stories.
Yeah, I thank you so much for that. So I have a question for you. You said that the fear and the failure itself broke your self-esteem.
Mhm.
Having said all of that, what made you continue to try? Because oftentimes when we feel broken and fragmented in a way, we just give up. But you have not given up. So help us to understand what keeps you going.
Goes back to building and working on your anchors.
Mm-hmm.
So I think still in my 20s and 30s, especially in my 30s, I was deep and I could really read a lot of heavy books. And I think that was one of my greatest anchors. That even when I failed, my one of my greatest failures was going through my divorce, which was horrible. And that was one point of my life that I read very heavy books. And that seems like it was preparing me for other ways of failing in business. Because I think after going through that, then when my businesses started crumbling and things were not working right, I could still go through, oh, when Mandela did that, if she survived that and I'm here, I can do it, you
Okay.
know? A lot of strong, painful stories. So obviously there's a lot of working on myself, which is still a journey. I'm still on it. Having my anchors, which I keep saying, like I always make sure I have friends that I can count on. Building that, my relationship with my siblings, my family, my mom was my greatest anchor. Obviously, just making sure that I'm very conscious and I'm very careful on how I'm trading and dealing with people, because I think for me, I wouldn't know how to live life without people. So those have been my greatest anchors. Obviously, there's so many other tools. I work on myself. I have podcasters that I listen to, and it doesn't mean it has stopped. That there's still moments I'll wake up, I am full of self-doubt. I've called you enough times, Miss Paula, with I can't make this decision. It's a business decision, sometimes it's a personal decision, but that's still fear. That's still the little voice telling me, are you sure you can do this? Miss Yodit, you've seen it again and again. Just before we got here, I was on a call with you. And sometimes that is still like that is the mentorship we go through. Mentors sometimes don't have to be branded as mentors. I think we do a lot of mentorship to each other. This fear to, am I parenting right? Was that the right decision for me to make? is what's going to be the outcome. So it's in so many facets of life that if we just have to keep on building those anchors and working on it, because it's going to happen again and again. Yeah.
I love that. I so love that. So here are my takeaways. I'm going to give you my takeaways and then I'll pass the mic to Sister Yodit because I'm sure she has a lot she can contribute to this conversation with her wisdom. So my first take from what you say to me, and I'd like to share this with the audience just upfront, is that fear is a part of life. There's going to be something you're going to be afraid of. There's going to be someone you're going to be afraid of. There's something you're going to be afraid to try. Fear is just what it is. You can bring that into your awareness. Be aware, afraid of it, and still have the courage to move through the fear, no matter what it takes you. You usually end up, if you fail, well, what can I learn from this? And I see and I hear this when Kim says this. She's very, very direct in being honest about this. I have seen her. She said, she'll call me. We're 7 hours apart. She'll call me. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Miss Paula, I need to speak to you. And I've always wondered why she called me because I'm sort of a rebel. But anyway, that story's for another day. I'm not the person for you to ask if you're afraid to do something. I'm not really one of those people maybe you should ask because I'm going to be the person to tell you to jump off cliff. Oh, Miss Paula, I don't have a parachute. So what? There's trees below. They'll catch you. You'll be fine. And so we've had this conversation, but I've seen Miss Kim do those successfully that she would be afraid of something and she does not give up. The fear doesn't stop her from doing it, from attempting it, from trying, and then afterwards, I love this part of it when she does, and whatever happens, and we have the conversation, we'll stop conversation, and she says, well, what'd you learn? What happened? Hey, it was a mess, or it worked out just fine. These are the lessons that we can take away from this. I think that's valuable. The other thing, my takeaway from what you've said is, and I support this 100%, is to surround yourself or have someone, a sphere of people that care about you. You don't have to worry about it. Like, they care about you no matter what. If you woke up down the street butt naked with your hair on one side and your diapers unhinged, they will still love you. When you have people, I'm sorry. Hey, I'm a storyteller. When you have people that love you and you surround yourself with people that love you, that can be honest with you, those relationships are edifying. Those relationships are like security blanket that those people are going to love you, whether you fail, whether you make it, they'll still be there for you. They still love you. So for anyone that's listening to this, surround yourself, at least find one person, build solid relationship that can you and support you and give you a sense of security through whatever. People that love you additionally don't care. They don't care if you're driving a raggedy car or you had all the money and you lost it. If they love you, they still love you for who you are. So those are my takeaways. Thank you so much, Miss Kim. I love these conversations because I always learn something. Sister Yodit, come on with it because I know you've been sitting quiet. Come on. Sorry about the unhinged diapers. Hey.
It's okay. I just had this vision in my head that wasn't very pleasant, but anyways, it's all right. It's all good. I also love and appreciate these conversations. As Miss Kim was talking, I think one thing that is important to point out is that Miss Kim is an entrepreneur. And so for people who've been listening to our conversations over time, you would have learned something, and that's, entrepreneurs keep going. But then there's the personal side of things, those things like divorce that happen that can completely break people. And it's how you get up from things like that that really speak to your personality, your upbringing, etc. And yes, like Miss Paula, I've seen Miss Kim get up and go and drive things and wonder why I'm being so cautious. I'm sure sometimes she just wants to smack me because I'm a very cautious person, especially when it comes to taking risks. I want to make sure that everything is uncovered before we go for it, but I'm learning. So, in terms of fear of failure, I've always used that as a motivator, something to drive me and I work hard. I've worked for organizations most of my life. Um, and in the last organization, it was a corporate environment. Everything is about making sure that you get things done and you get things done right. And so I used fear of failure as, I don't know if I should say an inspiration, but it certainly motivated me. And, because I did not want to fail for many reasons. One, I didn't want to disappoint my parents. My parents are my role models, ultimate. They've sacrificed to educate, etc. So I didn't want failure to be anywhere associated with me. And then, of course, you've got now your children who look up to you and they see what you're doing, friends, etc. But also within the environment itself, you want to make sure that you are good at what you do. So I worked very hard. And I definitely had failures. Most certainly, there were some programs that the last couple of weeks, for some reason, some of them have been coming back to mind, and I just wonder how I made it through. But there were a couple of serious issues with a couple of programs, and the one thing though that I did master is I learned how to get up and keep going. So even with projects failing and not reaching the targets that you're supposed to reach, or not impressing people the way they were supposed to impress. I'm talking now development projects that were funded by the organization that I worked for. There were some programs that did not do well, but I learned how to just keep going because I could not afford to allow myself to wallow, because it's very easy to wallow. But when you've got targets and you've got 12 months to meet the targets, you just have to keep going. So I think it was a driving force for me. And every time I was asked, what is it that you use? Fear of failure was one of the first things I would say. I refuse to fail. I do not want to fail. It's an ugly feeling when you do fail, and it's a feeling that I don't want. Now, coming to the last couple of years of my life where I've just gone through a huge transition. I'm now trying to be my own boss, which is very difficult. And Miss Kim knows, she's been pulling me by my ears and my nose. Miss Paula, you've been part of that since I've joined the Happiness Tribe, and helping me to try to mold this new person. And it's not easy. Does fear of failure factor into my current situation? Absolutely, because it's even more important now that I don't fail, for many reasons. So we can use it as a good thing. We can use it as a way to motivate ourselves to keep going and to work hard, because I think people who accept failure too much, who say, well, that's part of life, and allow themselves to fail. Because I think there's certain things you can do to prevent failure. There's some things that are out of your control, but there's certain things, and applying yourself and working hard, I believe, is one of them. Being disciplined, being honest. You have to be honest. And so I think fear of failure can teach us a lot of things, but we have to recognize, to your point, Miss Paula, that it's a part of life. You fail at work things, you fail at family things. Sometimes we fail miserably with our children. We make decisions that we shouldn't have made, and it comes back to bite us. But you have to keep going. And I think ultimately that's the lesson, is you have to just pick yourself up and keep going and rebuilding. If it's your confidence that you've lost, as you keep rebuilding, doing things that you wouldn't ordinarily do. And Miss Paula, when you started speaking about social media and speaking on social media, I look back at last year when I first started doing podcasts with the Happiness Tribe. I could barely speak. I didn't want to speak. I wondered who is out there. I still wonder who's out there listening to me, but it's kind of gone away, which is a nice feeling. I feel that I have something to say, I have something to contribute and share, and hopefully I can inspire and influence other people to do things, thinking about the future and children, etc. So I've come a long way. And I know that it has a lot to do with the Happiness Tribe, the reasons that we've told ourselves why we exist. And there are times when we fumble and we don't do things the way we want to. But what's nice is that I don't have to be scared of that. I'm not scared of it, actually, you know. Um, so I just look forward to these conversations because there's always something new to learn. But I've put my big girl panties back on and I'm on the road and taking it taking it one day and one step at a time. Thank you, Miss Paula. I think I've gone to 50 towns with this, but yeah.
That's okay because it just enriches the conversation. Imagine that whoever's listening is in the same position, and it does provide a different perspective. But I do have a follow-up question, Sister Yodit. My follow-up question for you is, now you've gone from being an employee working in a company to being an entrepreneur. How does your fear of failure, how is that impacting your mission to build a business? What does that look like? And I can just imagine the relationship between you and Miss Kim, and how, because she's a serial entrepreneur. For those of you who don't know, Miss Kim has multiple businesses, organizations, enterprises. She volunteers, she's on boards, just a full life, a full smorgasbord of things. So, Sister Yodit, how is this impacting your being on the other side of the equation now as the business owner and as the potential employer?
And that's exactly it. You know, when and I think I said this to Miss Kim a couple of weeks ago. If not Miss Kim, to my husband, because sometimes I speak to Miss Kim almost every day, many times a day sometimes. But anyway, um it's a different kind of motivator now, Miss Paula. Now, and you said it, and I'm glad you said it, to becoming an employer. I think about getting my next job. You know, it's so much easier to get another job, and I'm trying to see if I can get another job, because it's easier that way, right? But then there are times when I think about, after a podcast with Miss Kim, where she will remind myself and the listeners, you know, how unemployment is such a challenge for us on this continent. And I know it's a challenge everywhere, but because we're here, we speak about what's happening in Botswana, and our unemployment figures are very high. Our young people are frustrated. And here I am, you know, trying to get a job as opposed to creating jobs. So that is a huge incentive. There's a fear of, not so much a failure, but I'm very worried about our young people. Is there a way that I can actually show up um, and create jobs? I don't know. I don't have an answer to that yet, right? And
I
if
do.
I able to get there, to be able to create jobs for other young people who are interested and curious about the things that I'd like to impact, then absolutely. I'm working on both. So we'll see how it goes. But that would be my biggest thing, is worry about what is happening to our children here, our young people. Um, and then, you know, the motivation to get up every single day and do something, whether it's currently I'm taking a couple of courses online, just to, I enjoy learning. So just to learn something new and to keep myself ready for anything that may come my way. Um, so that's something that I enjoy doing. I don't want to wallow, Miss Paula. It's so easy to do that. But at the same time, for folks who are listening now, it's even more difficult when you allow yourself to get to a state where you're paralyzed. And I don't want to get to a state where I'm unable to get up in the morning and do the things that I have to do, laying the groundwork either for my business to take off, getting the contracts or the opportunity to advise, and or securing some kind of employment. So you have to keep going. And the fear of, in this instance, yes, it's fear of failure, but it's a failure that's even worse than failing within a corporate environment. You have to keep going. And I think that's yeah, that's the best that I can do with your question at this moment.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And you answered it pretty quickly. And there's never going to be, I don't think there's ever a clear cut answer to any of these types of questions, because the response is subjective, right? So I think it's great. Congratulations for your continued education work. It's so amazing to hear that, because I just made a decision yesterday. I to anyone. I just made a decision yesterday. I've been doing some research. I want to get, I loved statistics when I was in school and I was pretty good at it. And now I'm finding myself wanting to pivot into a particular industry that I really don't know anything about in terms of the mechanic, professionalism, the requirements. I'm looking at taking some kind of online training for data management, data collection, analysis, reporting, but I want to focus on ESG and on the entire process of commodities from the ground to finished products and what that's going to look like. I don't know what that's going to look like, but Miss Kim, I was going to call you and ask you if I know you have a variety of different training stuff that you deal with for people. Do you have any plans to do some kind of education online learning module, digital learning module, something for adults? Or because I know you're in the tech field and this is sort of techie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm mortified. Can I tell you I'm absolutely mortified about the concept. I made a decision yesterday. I said I've got to get some additional skills in this area, but I'm paranoid. I'm absolutely, I love technology, but to interact with it on a level drives me nuts. Nonetheless, um, it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity, and I wanted to bring this to the table because there's so many of us that think I'm going to be 60 in a few months. I'll be 60 years old, and some of us believe that because we're not children or young people anymore, that somehow additional education, upskilling, training maybe is not an option, or we're afraid of what people are going to think because we're the old ones in the classroom. The world has changed so much that we shouldn't even be worried about that kind of thing. I think we should grab it by the horns and do what we got to do. It's just like me jumping off the edge of the cliff. It's the same way with this, but I am extremely mortified when I look at some of the requirements with this. I can't even remember it. QLM, whatever. I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do with all of that? I don't have a clue, but I'm going to do it anyway because I want to learn about this and I want to build a business around this. So we'll see.
If
We'll
I
see what happens. Go ahead,
I
Sister.
think, yeah, the best thing to do, Miss Paula, is I think, or the what I would like to suggest is that you look at, there are a lot of free online courses available. If you're talking ESG and sustainability, you just have to Google it, training in. I'm currently using a platform called edX. They've got lots and lots of free trainings on sustainability, ESG, explaining. I don't know about data. I've never explored that part, but I'm sure they have something, even if it's just an introductory course in that. And if you want to get a certificate in it, you pay, and I think you pay, I've seen as little as $30 to be able to get a certificate in the course that you've just taken. So I've taken many courses in, explaining sustainability, explaining ethics and sustainability, um, based unpacking what ESG is all about. I've done courses in what they call money laundering and compliance related things. Currently,
Okay.
the course that I'm taking it's a free course again with the University of Cape Town on climate change and modeling for climate change. Now, that's something that's really not. It's a bit difficult, the whole modeling thing, but I'm trying to read as much as I can about it just to understand what climate change means and how some of these scientists work. So there's a lot that you can start learning. There's so much. Harvard has free courses. But my favorite so far has been edX. I believe there's another platform called Udemy. They also have some free courses available. But there's a lot online, Miss Paula. You will be amazed at how much you can learn without having to pay anything for it. But if you need a certificate for it, you can. And then, of course, if you're doing a second master's, then you have a lot of programs available as well. So yeah,
I
happy learning. I love it. I think it's
I
fantastic.
appreciate that. Thank you so much, Sister Yodit. I appreciate that. And thank you for the recommendation. Those actually came up on the list actually. So yeah, I'm going to be pursuing the opportunities as they fall. But this is very interesting because this is a very good segue into professional impact, right? What type of impact does the fear of failure have in your professional life? What does that look like? For some of us, it's stunted innovation, right? Some of us, it's the inability or the unwillingness to even try to learn a, for instance, to try to learn this technology thing, you know. Um, if you're a leader, if you're a mid-level leader, a manager in an organization, or even if you have your own business, fear-based leadership. How can you lead well if you're afraid of what people think or how they perceive you, or whatever the internal narratives are that we hold that regulate the way we behave, the way we treat people and interact with people? This would be a really good time to begin to look at your professional life and look at this concept specifically, fear of failure as the hidden gatekeeper in your professional life. What does that look like? How does it show up? Don't be afraid to excavate, you know, where you are in a in relationship to where you would want to go, where you want to be. How do you build out whatever it is you're trying to do? And the second thing, the third thing actually for professional impact is avoiding accountability. This is something that we see in most organizations, whatever the size are. This is just how it shows up. People just avoid responsibility. They're afraid that, you know, they'll get in trouble, they get judged. It runs the gamut. So, professional standpoint, Miss, I know you have Destination Imagination Africa, and you're really into training and upskilling our young people and preparing them for this new world that we're getting into. How? What are your experiences, first of all? And the second question is, what do you have to say to young people who are involved or want to get involved or afraid to get involved in these types of training programs? Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Paula. And it's interesting. It's difficult for us to have these conversations and not seeing the cultural background, because that shapes us. And sometimes when you think about why fear is so deep in us, it has a lot to do. We're products of our culture. We were raised, and thinking about a case in point where a lot of us just failing at school that warranted beating, and we grew up just knowing failure was not an option. We're not allowed to fail. That makes us fearful to even try. But then when you think life in the West, I feel like I'm alone. And true, I am alone.
What do
Feels
you
like
mean, Miss Kim?
I'm talking to myself. So, and then my thoughts are not flowing when I feel like I'm talking to myself. Like my last week podcast alone was so funny. And I don't think Miss Paula knows we have the video on, but you're good. You're good.
No, I'm aware we have the video. I apologize. I'm having technical difficulties. So I'm trying to position my screen. It's crazy. I can't see myself, but I know that the camera is on. I just apologize. I didn't want to interrupt you, Miss Kim. So go ahead, but I can hear you. I'm just trying to fix this madness. Thank you.
No, we can see you pretty well, and you're looking very pretty. So, yeah. So yeah, back to and my attempt to answer your question. In the corporate space, or rather when you run your business, we still try to take calculated risk. And thanks God to now so many amazing tools that it's so easy to do your research. I'm happy you want to get into data. Marketing is now very much data driven. So is decision making, which minimizes the opportunity cost, the level of when you do your return on investment and you analyze what could go wrong. Because once you use the tools will tell you if you want to get into this space, just know we have 100 companies that are doing it in your city, and this has been the outcome. Just know annually, this is the budget that's set. This particular space you want to get in, there's funding for it, or there's no funding. A lot of companies have closed shop, and this is what you can do to mitigate that risk. So it's something that we need to be. The fact that I was just explaining previously that how we grew up in Africa with failure for the longest time was not an option. We were not even allowed to fail. We were beaten up for failing at school. And the still today, there's a lot of shame and embarrassment that's associated with failing, even failing from business, even failing at work, even just not doing the right thing. That could be universal. But then, at least in the West, business people are celebrated when they fail. You want to get a bank loan, you need to have failed, to have started some businesses and you failed. But for us, it's brought in a lot of shame that you couldn't tell anyone. My business has barely up before. I lost my staff. I lost this and that. That was quite embarrassing. But now I get into accepting and understanding that failure is actually not a bad thing. It literally shows you got your skin in the game, you're resilient, and you keep trying. However, the body keeps us score. So it still has attacks on us. The fact that we fail, we try again, it doesn't mean that it doesn't ruin us. And what happens to that? How do we get our healing? What are the survival toolkits we must ensure we put? And sometimes it can be very scary when you're trying again or getting into a new venture. Rizzo, as we put those tools, we try to, personally, I keep asking myself, what is the worst that's going to happen? Is anybody going to die? Am I going to lose my home? Am I going to lose my child? Am I going to lose my sanity? Sometimes you can't answer all those questions, but I do like a lot of journaling. If you look, you got my laptop and you went to my Notion, you would actually go like, do we take her to a mental hospital or what? Because I talked in Notion. I talk to AI a lot, as Miss Yodi freaks out on that. AI helps me a lot in decision making. That's my brainstorming partner. And then I have my tools where I analyze and I put pros and cons. And then sometimes I have my 7 days rule. If this idea is sitting with me for the next 7 days, I'm still feeling about it. Every time I think about it and I go like, but I forgot to think that I now want to start traveling. Why am I putting myself in this? So I go back and write that down. So I do a lot of journaling, but I forgot that my child is going to university. What was I thinking when I was making that decision? So I will journal, and then 7 days later, I can keep on reflecting and I'll look at pros and cons. So there's no way, there's no business not have some risk associated. I don't think that that's yet to be born. There's always some risk, but then you look at, can I afford this risk? If this is what could go wrong, can I afford this one? What my mentorness, how will it hurt me? And sometimes we acknowledge and encounter these where you go like, sometimes we don't even know what we're scared of. Sometimes I think it's so deep, it's so mental. We don't know. So that's why, like you mentioned, we'll keep on procrastinating, but we're just so scared. And sometimes we're scared of the smallest things that you actually just go, sometimes you flash back, you go, I can't believe I was so scared of that. When you are explaining about you getting into a new venture, you sort of charging me. I didn't want Miss Yuri to know, but on Tuesday I went out clubbing. Yes, I did.
On a Tuesday, imagine Miss Paula on a Tuesday. Okay, then
It was
well
a
done.
public
I'm
holiday.
happy.
Actually, it was on Monday night. Tuesday was a holiday. So,
Oh, okay. No, that makes sense. Monday, the eve before a holiday makes sense. I hope you had a
yes,
good time.
I had a good time. But one of the things I'm usually so scared of is at my age, I'm so scared of sitting in a club alone. Date. I'm very uncomfortable sitting in a club alone. Yeah. And I travel a lot, and I've traveled for days, months, well, be in a new city alone. But and I love eating out, and I'm extremely. And I love clubbing. I'll go dancing. but I make friends quickly as well. So this particular time, I try to get my daughters. None of them wants to come. My friend of them wants to come, and I drive home, and I just go like, I don't want to be home alone. It's Monday night, so I go to some place which is newly renovated. There's a very nice band playing, and I just go like, I'm just gonna sit here for dinner and a glass of wine and go home. But I'm speaking to my friend, and I'm telling her, I just wish you were here. I don't know how am I gonna walk in there alone, and she's laughing at me like, really? And I tell her there are places I'm used to, and even the waiters know me. I'm very comfortable in those places, and that's where I'm regular in just some of the hotels. But this particular place, they've just renovated, and they have a new owner. Nobody knows me there. What am I gonna do? And I walk in, and I tell her, just give me 5 minutes. If I don't make a friend in 5 minutes, I'm out. Of course, less than 5 minutes, I met a girl. We became very good friends. But then she was with the team, the band that was performing. You don't want to know what happened.
Yes, I do.
So,
Now you've started telling the story. You have to finish.
Tell us what happened.
so I see that she's so exciting to talk to. She's talking about everything I like. I love farm life. We're talking about her family. She's an educator. We just grow to really like each other. She's with the band. Those are her friends who are performing. And I just tell her, I've always wished I could play a music instrument. And she encourages me. And I'm telling her, I don't know what to do. I can't walk there. What if I make a fool of myself? I don't even know nicely how to hold a guitar. I buy them for my kids, but I'm so scared. And the more we talk, and she's psyching me, and guess what? I ended up doing it. And I was so proud of myself.
Wow, Miss Kim, that's wonderful. You didn't take any photographs.
I do. I even have videos.
Miss Kim.
That is
Wow.
awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. So
You
I
must
was
share.
yeah, I will. I was so proud of, I overcame that fear. I'm scared of rejection. I'm a horrible dancer, but I love to dance. So I don't care. I dance. And in Africa, literally, it's like Africans are born with a rhythm. You hardly meet an African who can dance. So it's so odd that you dance with your 2 feet. So it's like literally you're making a fool of yourself. I don't care. I dance. That one I long overcame. I just went like, no, this is not going to. I'm not gonna go down like this. And I didn't dance. No, I danced. So now playing the musical instrument. So you see, the more we work on that, I wouldn't know. Maybe at some point in school, I tried to play a music. I can't remember. I don't know. Maybe kids laughed at me. So since then, I'm so scared of failing. I'm scared of making that mistake. So it takes a lot, takes guts. I sat with this lady, and I also looked. I don't know anybody in this restaurant, so I don't care. And I've seen it within speaking engagements. I am more scared when I speak in front of people who know me than when I speak in front of strangers. Because I'm all like, I'm gonna look silly. These are my friends, they know me. I do a lot of speaking engagements. It doesn't mean I don't get some fear sometimes when I'm getting on stage. Am I gonna be silly? It doesn't mean I don't ask when I'm getting out of stage, did I speak well? Did I make a fool of myself? And I'm not good with notes. I don't know how to do notes. I will read, I can even make notes for myself, speaking points, but I don't know how to get on stage with notes. That thing is, it's a bit horrible for me. I don't want to, I like going with the flow. I don't feel like I want to read and tell. I want to have a conversation. I want to tell you, I want to engage. I want to see if you're listening, you're paying attention. What I'm saying is interesting to you. So I think what we need to do is we confront what we're scared of. It's not easy. It can be something as silly as what I've mentioned, where a lot of people that's nothing to them. They can dance, they can sing, they can play music instruments, they can speak in crowds. So sometimes like that may not have anything to do with my business, but it's still a part of me that I'd love to work on. I'd love to join a music band. I'd love to dance. I'd love to be a musician. But I have this horrible belief that I don't have a good voice. And anytime I say to somebody who sings, they go like, "You just work on it." I mean, as a lot of people say, some are naturals, yes, but you can polish that and you can learn to be that you want to be. It's never too late. But we know it's easier said than done. Now, Miss Paula, to answer your last question on what do I tell youth, I work with a lot of youth and I see their fear every day. And I still caution them on, can we try baby steps? It's not easy. It's not easy. And I agree and I accept. And a lot of it has a lot to do with soft skills. If you've never had a lecturer, a mentor, somebody to teach you how to communicate well, somebody to teach you just basics on how do you make friends. I've seen it on something that I didn't know. There are things that we just take for granted because we don't know. So I drag my daughters to high level meetings. And at some point, I think 2 years ago, my daughter, we were in a high level EU event. And I told her, we can't go to an event, it's a dinner, and then you just hang out with me, go and socialize. She came back 2 minutes later. How do you socialize?
It's a good question.
And for me,
What
I'm
do you
just going like,
do?
yeah, what do you do? What do I ask people? And I told her, okay, I'm gonna teach you. Let's walk to people we don't know. Because for me, I'm a natural. I don't care. Drop me anywhere as long as, even if you're speaking French and Chinese and I can't speak, we're still gonna make friends somehow. Deal with it. So so I walk with her and I thought that this is how, just you just walk to people and say, hi, how are you? Are you enjoying the music? So and then I just went to two, three strangers and I told her, now do it. So we're gonna walk into a and you're gonna talk to those people and I won't talk. And from there, you're going to mingle and start a conversation. And I am so proud of the person she's become. I see her now, we'll go to high level meetings and she'll be sharing jokes with people. Essentially, she would just go like, these are people in their 60s, 70s. What am I going to tell them? And she ends up making friends. So it's still that thing of assuming that people know. People need to be taught, especially youth. We need to teach them. Not all of them have gotten into situations, and these are things that a lot of schools won't teach. That same going back to collaboration, communication, critical thinking, creativity. Those are very essential. They're very fundamental skills that we all need for us to thrive. And if we can get those skills, we can then be able to build on our self esteem. When we build our self esteem, we start losing the fear. When you lose the fear, we can
Yeah.
face anyone. And still working on little things. Sometimes the fear could be, I have silly things like when my nails are not done, even if it's on a podcast, that affects my self esteem, which is very silly. I don't know why. It's some little obsession. So just make sure my nails are done. I might be working from home, but if that's what it takes for me to feel I have a voice, and my red lipstick. Anytime my kids steal my red lipstick, I can't get on a meeting. And I should overcome that. I should know I'm not my lipstick. But for now, that keeps
Uh,
me going. So it needs to be there and it's okay. So
it
just
is.
yeah, it's okay. Just making people, and also I like, especially leadership, showing our staff that we also have moments that we're scared. The fact that I'm the leader doesn't mean that I don't have moments that I'm scared. I do. We all do. Of course, as we lead, we need then to work on our emotional intelligence. We can't keep on crying when they're crying. But it's also important for us to show I'm human. I have my own issues. I have my own trials and tribulations. End of my speech.
I think that goes a long way. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to you, Miss Kim. Are you done? I think that goes a long way for someone that does so much, that is so engaged and involved, to be able to have the audacity to be your human self. really inspires other people. And I think we don't often know how much we inspire people by the way we carry our humanity, no matter in what space that we're at. It really does make a difference. But here's a thought as you were speaking, and this is a sidebar. Here's a thought for part of the training you need to add for DI. As you were saying that, networking etiquette. Think about it. Because we just say it, but we don't, there's no mechanism for really teaching young people what that looks like. How do you walk up to people? How do you approach them? What are some of the things that you can use in terms of connecting with people? What does that look like? I think that should be a master class. That should be a good stroke of gem or knowledge to pass on to people, because we take it for granted. But when you said that about your daughter, and your daughter is such an outgoing, to me, beautifully professional human being, both of your daughters. So for her to say, what do I do? How do I network? What does that look like? I thought that's something that we need to add to that.
You see,
Thank
Miss
you.
Paula, I try
Mhm.
to, like, anytime I'm invited for high level meetings, I drag my entire team. I go with them. In most cases, I will have to do a lot of convincing the first, the second meeting. Then when they just call, because especially Botswana is a bit easier, but we have this thing of, you have a meeting with the minister and you're asking me to come. I'm so scared. I can't meet the minister. And then I just encourage, he's just human and he's going to be very kind to you. Let's go.
Right.
Yeah. So, like the other day, I was telling Miss Jodita I had a meeting with EU team. I went with my entire office. The EU officers were asking, did we ask for all this? And I said, I always come with my children. I don't go alone. And I don't talk alone. I actually make sure they have their chair, they drag their chair to the table. So when you ask me to, how can I be explaining at my age? Then what am I doing with this team if I'm the one to say what we do? I
And that's
ask
such
them.
an advantage. That's such an advantage. Anyone you're speaking with that has anything to do with the business can see right in front of them what your team
Yeah.
look like and can speak directly to them. That is really powerful. I'm sorry to jump down your throat, but that's, to me, that is phenomenal. That's one half. But the thing that I hear when you say that is you're working on your, whether you know it or not, your internal change management. You're cultivating the next generation of leadership, whether it's a conscious decision or not. You're getting them used to being able to be at these kinds of meetings, not to be afraid of these kinds of people with power. How do you entertain power, and how do you manage yourself when you're entertaining or you're interacting with power? What does that look like? I just think that's phenomenal. I'll stop there because I can get all involved. I just think that's phenomenal. Sister Yodit, is there anything else you'd like to add to this?
Yes, no, I love the story Miss Kim just told, and well done to you for going partying on a Monday night. I mean, Tuesday was a holiday, so why not? But what I really love about your story, Miss Kim, and that's part of, and I think Miss Paula's already mentioned it, but working on rebuilding your confidence and your self-esteem is doing these types of things that you would never think you could do, and sometimes I think it's easier to do those things um in the West. I don't know why, because people do things as individuals a lot and it doesn't really matter. It's not as easy to do it in the African context. But I love the fact that you went ahead and did it. And I mean, for you to get up on stage and play an instrument, I think that's phenomenal. And what happens is tomorrow, when you have to do something that's completely unrelated, you're not as fearful. So I think it helps. And this is something that it's a story that should resonate with a lot of people, because it's an encouragement to say, do something. What is it? What's the expression when they say, what is it? Remove yourself from your safe space. Do something that's completely different, something that you've never done before, because it helps to build the confidence for you to step into that room full of leaders, and to be able to address them, etc. I love that story. And then when it comes to networking, Miss Paula, we assume that sometimes I've seen young people who are amazing when it comes to emceeing, being the master of ceremony. I was watching these kids at the high school where my children attend, and I was floored at how skilled they are. These are 19-year-old kids. But I know that we also have adults, people who are much older who don't have the confidence to network effectively. So, not network just to make small talk, but network to get something out of an opportunity. If you're at a workshop, and you're surrounded by people who are experts in a certain field, there is or there may be an opportunity for you to get something, to get work or whatever. We need to train. I think it has to be part of upskilling not just young people but also adults, people who've just lost their jobs. We have a lot of people who are losing their jobs. Sometimes it's very difficult to get up and start working again, to start moving, because you don't know where to start. So this is something that I think maybe we should also consider. um, I don't know, we always talk about the next podcast, but it's something that I think we should speak about. This thing of getting up and doing things that you would never otherwise do. So thank you for sharing that story, Miss Kim. I love it. And I'm waiting for the video, by the way. Yes.
Me too. The other thing, thank you so much. Thank you both for your feedback. Very, very enlightening. The other thing that I wanted to do, really what I wanted to cover, was these for leadership, for business leadership, in terms of how fear shows up if you're a business leader or you're a team leader or you're in a position of authority. What do you do when you have staff members or a team member has a radical idea that can really perhaps have a positive impact on the business, a project, and it's something, and their proposal, whatever this proposal is, really runs up against your personal fear? How do you deal with that? How do you as the leader handle moving beyond your fear to further enable your team to help the whole team win? What does that look like? Does it make sense, Miss Sally? What I'm asking is, as a leader, how does your fear impact your business, and how you, when you're challenged with a suggestion that just is something that mortifies you? Let me give you a perfect example. So you're the leader of a business, you're the CEO, and you're having, the business is pretty good, but business is slowing down, and so you're having to lay off people, and someone comes to you and say, well, let's just integrate AI to do our emails and to kind of automate some of our functions, which would help the company save money. But you are deadly afraid of technology, especially AI, because you think AI is going to take over the world. How do you handle that fear, and what would be your suggestion to that leader in terms of how they will deal with the fear and still be able to move on towards some solution? Miss Kim, this question's for you.
Okay, good. Thank you. I was actually about to say, you need to go first because I think the party is on here, but I am going to be quick. So, okay. So, sorry, now you actually just chose the wrong example to give me because you know me and AI.
I do.
Sorry, can I just tell some to behave outside?
Yes, you may. And Sister Yodit, if you heard the question, Sister, did you hear the question? Would you like me to repeat it? Go ahead, Miss Kim. Go ahead.
Good. I'm good. Yeah. I think it's a very interesting question, Miss Paula. And my suggestion to that leader would be surround yourself by people who know. So the first thing that I would do if there's something that I'm really scared of, or scared of possibly means that I don't know anything about it, and that's why I'm fearful, is to get in advisors, people who'll be able to explain and educate me, but then also take it a step further. I would invite people who understand so that they can come and explain it to the larger team. In other words, one of the things that I believe leadership leaders need to embrace is the fact that there are people who know better than them. Because sometimes when leaders feel that they don't know something, they don't want to approach it. They don't even want to go there because they don't want to be seen to be ignorant. But I think it's okay to accept that you cannot possibly know everything, right? And therefore, it becomes important now to be open and have people who are smarter than you, people who can help you win. And if you approach it that way, perhaps it'll be easier than trying to assume or trying to learn everything about it before you allow that, technological advance or whatever it is, AI, to be utilized within the business. I don't know if I'm responding to you, to the question specifically, Miss Paula, but one of the things that I was thinking about as you were speaking about leadership is, what is it that, because we have too many leaders who are almost dictatorial because they are fearful of being, whether it's overthrown or seen to be not as smart, or questioned because of whatever. But I've been thinking about that, and what is it that we need to do to assist and support those leaders who are not leading as well as they could be. Let me put it that way. But anyway, yeah, that's my attempt at answering your question. I don't know if if Miss Kim is back and can help me if she heard part of my response, but I would definitely advise bringing in the people who understand that whatever it is that you're fearful of as a leader to come and help you explain it or to position it in such a way that it'll be accepted by the other people that you're trying to convince.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sister Yodit. I think that's a really good, not just a good, it's an excellent suggestion. Because what I thought about when you were saying was, with technology now, do a mock-up, do a digital mock-up. Show me how this technology is going to impact our production. What is that going to look like? Instead of just saying I'm afraid, show me. Do it in virtual reality or in digital space. Let us see what that looks like. I think that's an excellent suggestion. Go ahead, Miss Kim.
No, actually, what you're making me smile about is I love, because I work with a lot of young people. So their self-esteem, I hope they're not listening, but I am always like, I don't know. I have a lot of, I don't, show me, let's figure it out, even when I know.
Yeah.
And sometimes I even want them to feel nice that I knew it and she didn't know. I taught her. But I mean, I have spent even, especially small things like digital marketing. I've been in that space for many years, so I don't even have to sit and research. Some of it just comes natural because if it's what you do every day, then you become
Mhm.
very good. But they don't expect me to be as smart as they are. When you mention spaces like TikTok, what do you expect this 50-year-old woman to know about TikTok? Yet, a lot of these spaces, what you apply in one platform is relatively the same skills that you might apply in another platform. Some a little bit different. Now, when it comes to technology, especially, to me, it's not just a skill I have as a profession, it's a passion. And when you're passionate about something, you're going to learn again and again. You know, you always the first one to know breaking news. So when I start to tell them, no, don't use that platform, I use this, I get a lot of pushback. And I accept it. So what I look at is the opportunity cost. Because sometimes that can cost us a lot of money when you want to keep on going back and forth on something that I'm telling you, let's try this. So what I do is I cap it with time where I say, okay, is that the way you want us to go? How long is it gonna take? We're transitioning into a new um, system. We're transitioning into a new system. I get a lot of pushback with my favorite system, which is Monday.com. You know it, Miss Paula, but that's a project management system. But a lot of my staff come and find it so complicated to use, and it's not. So they'll come with a lot of new ideas. Let's use Notion. Let's use this and that. And all these are other little small platforms that you can link on the project management system. So usually I'll give them time to learn. So there are decisions that obviously I have policies, I have a business to build. I can't keep on changing with every person who comes with a different idea. So the approach, I will sit and explain to you. Right now, I have a team that has come up with the most weird idea. I told them, I'm not changing my contract. This is how we run. But if you guys want to come up with your own, I'm okay. You as a team. Because especially this time, what they've come up with, I know they're putting a rope on their necks. But I'm looking at it like, what's the big deal if you fail? There's nothing. I mean, so I'm always like, what is the opportunity cost? So if it's not going to kill the business, the idea that you're coming up with, try. It's okay. And who knows, maybe you're going to succeed and then you come and teach me something new. And I'm so happy to go like, I was wrong. I love what you came up with. This is actually a better way of doing things. Let's adopt this one. So I think it boils down to how you communicate that effectively.
Mhm.
Because I meet a lot of people where their voices were silenced where they're coming from. So for me, I have this open policy that you are smarter than I. That is one thing I keep telling them. Just the fact that you're younger than I, you are smarter than I. That does not mean that you could be wiser than I. There are things, you have things to teach me. There's something you know that I don't know. I don't underestimate that. Even a 10-year-old has something to teach me. Yeah. So we're here to learn together. But if this is going to affect the business in a very huge way, let's wait. Okay, I want to do your way. But can we wait in August when we're not busy? For 30 days, we're gonna try your way. Even when I know I'm not interested, that will not work. But I want to boost your self-esteem. I want to show you you matter. This you can teach me something. And I think as we work with people, it's so important. I'm in the business of building, not breaking.
I love that. Love that. I love that. And I love the other gem that you just dropped. You said you're younger than me. You're young, so you're smarter than me. Doesn't mean you're wiser than me, but you're smarter than me. And there is a distinction for that. And I think that's something we need to consider. Instead of always thinking that we have all the answers, we have the wisdom. Knowledge is transitory, and they may know things that we don't know because of the world they're growing up with. It's a part of who they are. So I love that. Thank you so much for that. And I hope that the audience caught that, because that's important and it's a distinction and it does matter. So
So
go ahead.
recently, I have one of Miss Yodit's sons, one of hers. I think she's a godmom too. So I have one of her sons as one of the students. So he told me because he loves to dress, he's very handsome. I mean, I'm working with a lot of young kids, they're cool. So I went like, I love your swag. And I was told, Miss Kim, this is the third time you're using a word you're not supposed to use.
What?
What's wrong with that word?
Why did he say that? Explain.
I get it even from my kids. They just go like, who told you? Who even says that? You don't say that. I'm too
I mean,
old.
it's just but we say that. So what word do they use now?
No,
The same
they
word.
can say
We're
that.
just not allowed to, because we're
Yes,
old.
you're not allowed to say we're old. I'm too old to be saying I love your swag. I mean, I
Okay,
can't say dude.
I
I'm
refuse.
not
I
supposed to.
refuse. I refuse. But you know me, I refuse. Why should it be restricted to a certain age?
No, I agree. Because also there are things I don't want to see them doing. That's for us. It's okay. I accept.
Yeah. You know, I remember you're reminding me of a time where what was I wearing? I was wearing what are they called? They're pants that go just below your knee. What are they
Uh-huh.
called? Capris, right.
Yeah.
And this young woman came to me, and I wasn't even that old, but anyway, she came up to me and she's like, "You really like to dress." Okay, I can't remember her words verbatim, but basically, what she was telling me is that I wasn't dressed for my age. And I looked at her and I said, "What? I don't understand what that means." what am I supposed to be wearing? Like a dress up to my ankles? You know, I don't know, Miss Kim, if it's an African thing. And we know that women will wear whatever they please at whatever age, but there is a certain mindset that you're not supposed to wear. You're certainly not supposed to wear shorts, in this part of the world after a certain age, which is very peculiar to people that I know and even to myself. Because why shouldn't I wear shorts because I'm over 50? But anyways, where we digress. But it's serious thing. So for me to be told that these emojis are funny. For me to be told that I'm not and I'm gonna try it on him, Miss Kim. What word is it you said? Swag. I'm gonna try and see what he
Right, you
said.
see, so
I
remember I watch
I was
movies. So I
anyway.
always learn new words, and we watch movies as well. It's just not just from them. So we always
That's
know what
true.
is trending, but we're not allowed to use it.
I've never been told that. But anyways, I guess there's always a first time. Sorry, Miss Paula, to have gone to 50 towns. Back to you.
It's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine. And that's a part of all of this, I always complain between about women with a bunch of children. Anyway, running around half naked. I'll stop there about that. So I get it. I get it. Age appropriate hire is what we're told. It's like,
It would
but
make for a very interesting podcast, but we need representatives from many different countries to get to some sort of consensus. Because
consensus.
yeah, because in certain parts of the world, and the reason it becomes confusing for Botswana is Botswana gets very, very hot, right? But yes, I would hesitate to wear shorts, especially of a particular length. But it's hot. It's hot. What's that noise? Okay, never mind. But it's hot. So the question is, why shouldn't we wear certain things because we're a certain age? I find it a bit confusing, Miss Paula, and Miss Kim, because when you go to places like, the Caribbean and maybe even parts of the US, you'll find women who are quite elderly wearing shorts, not revealing in a way that's nasty, but wearing shorts because it's hot and you need your skin to breathe. But I know definitely the way I was raised in Ethiopia, I wouldn't be able to walk around wearing shorts when I go
Mhm.
back home to
Yeah,
Ethiopia.
Well,
I'm glad you say that.
Yeah.
No, it's
you
very
know,
true. It's this fear. Like I have these very nice pictures. I'll send them to you, ladies. That I love them so much because I was sitting outside my mom's place with my mom, and I was wearing hot pants. And it's not long ago. But my mom would be very comfortable how I'm dressed until somebody's at the gate. And she'll throw, we call them lassos, like, I don't know what you call them, Miss Yodit. Kanga.
raps.
Yeah, wraps. So she'll throw a wrap on me. She's not worried. It's not about her. Because my mom was very exposed and stuff like that. But her friends, what are the villagers gonna say if they see her daughter dressed like this? So now for me to preserve her dignity, I'll behave. And I'm in the house and I'm on holiday and I want to feel comfortable. But this is my mom's space. I have my house where I can walk naked if I want to. So and it's the same thing I apply. I usually have this thing of when I'm traveling in Africa with especially Black Americans, I'll tell them, since you're Black, even if you have an accent and everyone will know you're not from Africa, and you're with me, we can't go for meetings with you dressed the way you are. This is the African culture, and this is the Tanzania, the Zanzibar, the Botswana. In Botswana, I can't go to a chief's place with pants. You have to wear a skirt. It's not applicable in my culture. We bury with jeans. In Botswana, we don't. So why not respect that?
That's true. And that is the cultural component of all of this. It's so funny that you all said that because I don't wear shorts at all. I don't, certain things I just don't wear because I'm an old lady. And so my daughter and I were having this conversation, and my second daughter, the sport. She said to me, she said, Mom, you should wear shorts. Who should tell you you can't wear shorts? You're not going to wear shorts. You're still, well, I'm not going to use the word she used anyway. So she actually went to the store and bought me a couple of long shorts that come above my knee. Really sporty. Was very, they weren't form fitting. They had pockets, they had pleats. They just looked very nice. And I thought I could wear these. And she said to me, said, Mom, it's not when you hear shorts, you're thinking shorts. She said, so it's just really, this is my child now. It's a matter of perspective. There's some things that you can wear, and it's what you wear it with. I wouldn't want to see you wearing this with a cutoff top with your belly. You get the picture. So, it kind of changed my perspective. I had not worn shorts in 35, almost 40 years. But
Wow.
they bought me a couple of really nice, like slack shorts kind of thing that's really comfortable. And I thought, okay, I can deal with these. But I do
Yeah.
understand and I do respect cultural norms, what cultural expectations are. And I
Yeah.
say these to people all the time when they're speaking about going to Africa. I deal a lot with African Americans who are seeking to recreate or to at least go back and experience what they've lost on the continent. And I always say to them, please consider the cultural context. Do not go to Africa with the lens of white people and they get offended. I shouldn't say that. None of that. Anyway, don't go there with the lens of the ruling class, because your perspective in the way that you interact with our people is going to create fiction. It's going to create friction. It doesn't matter. It's inappropriate. So anyway, we went to 1,000 different, I don't know, lanes, villages, and towns. Go ahead, Miss Yodi.
Just yeah, add one more thing, Miss Kim, as much and Miss Paula, as much as we choose to respect what we were raised with, right? Things are changing. I remember many years ago, we had traveled home with my children, and I told my kids, you can't wear short shorts or short skirts or short dresses in Addis because, we're conservative culture and la la la, which we are. And they were obedient. They traveled with clothing that I thought was respectful. But guess what? We were out there in the town and they looked at me and they're like, I thought you said people here don't dress like this. Things have changed. Things have
Yeah.
changed. I have seen young men walking down the streets of Addis with their pants hanging. You know how they hang their pants or whatever it's called? They do that. I've seen girls wearing very short, very tight things. So things have, and I couldn't say anything because for me, the Ethiopia that I grew up in, we did not dress like that unless you had PE or something. You didn't wear those things. So things have changed everywhere, and I don't know how. It's another subject for another podcast, but it makes things a bit difficult because I think then you can't use culture, right? You can't say, well, we don't do that here because it's not true anymore. I don't know how it is in Kenya, Muslim, but I suspect it's the same. Things have changed. Our kids are telling us, because you fear certain things. You ask your girls to dress a certain way because you fear that they will be attacked, etc. But the truth of the matter is that women who are fully clothed from head to toe are also attacked and assaulted, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what you're wearing. So it's becoming challenging. Let me just leave it at that because I see the time as well. Miss Kim.
Yeah. I just wanted to add on, I wouldn't claim to be very successful at this, but I'm very adamant on, don't, yes, people do it. And in certain cities, like in Botswana, it's very acceptable for you to rock up in hot pants, especially in the cities. It's not as acceptable in the villages, but I think it's super okay in the cities. But in my household, it's not acceptable. The Kims don't do that. So that's one thing I'm adamant on. Just because your peers are walking around with their tank tops, hot pants, we don't do that. So I'm not going to allow that. And especially when we're visiting new places, I've had that serious problem, especially going with my daughters to Zanzibar. They'll see a lot of many other black kids that are in Zanzibar. But I truly know this is not really culturally acceptable. So the fact that you're seeing others doing it and they're black and you think you should do it, no, not on this trip with me. When you choose, when you have your own salary and you're 29 and you're doing your own things, and I'm not there, and maybe I'll even say you're not associated with me, that's okay. But as yes, as of now, you're a brand, you have a reputation to maintain, and you need to be seen as a modest person. If we go clubbing and we choose to go in hot pants, you came to club and found me there. Now you deal with it. In this particular environment, I can club like this. I go to the beach, I can swim with my swimwear. That's a totally different story. But walking along the street where I might meet people who we have there's a certain way you want to be seen, even if you're in an environment that people do it. Doesn't mean we are not them. We have a certain code of ethics, of behavior. You're a brand. Live your brand. Thank you. I think that summarizes our podcast.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, Miss Kim. And it is. Those are decisions made on values, proper values. And it's not to, ooh, excuse me, Mom, are you okay? Oh my gosh. I apologize. Everyone's been sick, and so we're in herbs, but everything is coming up, so I apologize for that, but it is what it is. So we're somewhat out of time. I'd like to close this out by speaking about one particular thing in terms of fear, what fear does, how it controls everything, the fear of failure. Don't allow the fear of failure or even judgment to stop you from doing what it is you need and may want to do for yourself in terms of your own personal and professional growth and development. The antidote that we're going to leave you with today for the fear of failure is fail forward framework. That's what it's called. The antidote is fail forward framework, which means, and we've discussed this before, don't be afraid to fail. Every failure really allows you to reframe failure as feedback. So write a diary down, create a diary, a fail diary, if we may. Practice that. What do you learn from failure? What was your takeaway? What is the gems that you get that insulates you or prevents you failing from that particular mistake in that way the next time? And for those of us who are business owners or leaders in businesses and organizations, don't allow your fear to stop you from pursuing the growth of your business, whether it's moving to what we call the global south these days, extend your marketplace with everything that's going on, around the world these days, with the economy as it is. Don't be afraid to step out on faith. Try something different. Think about what it would feel like to move your business someplace else. And yeah, you're going to be afraid. Yes, you're going to be nervous. You may run into somebody, something that can be of benefit, but you're afraid. But push through it, like Miss Kim has taught us today, like Sister Judith has discussed in such detail today. Move through it. Push your way through it. Look at your failures as opportunities to learn something and to grow. We will leave you with that today. Thank you for spending the day with us, or spending this morning with us, an hour or so. And we hope that you take something away from this that can enable you to move and work through your fear towards success. Miss Kim, do you want to give us a closing remark before we leave?
Thank you, Lord, man. And this is where I find the Happiness Tribe podcast my therapy, because you sort of just get into parts and going like, yeah, I think I've not dealt with that fear. I think I should revisit that. But what I'd like to encourage all our listeners, every chapter, every time you fail, that's your beginning of a new class in wisdom. So embrace failure. It's inevitable. Fail fast, fail forward. It's part of life. Of course, it's important to take calculated risk. We're not saying jump over the cliff, no. But that fear just cripples us. When we just see it, we can't try because we're so scared to fail. No. And now we're living at an age where there's AI to help us. and real people, real therapies, real friends who we can talk to and encourage us and tell us, I also failed. Don't worry, let's try this. Thank you so much. It's been super awesome. Thank you, our listeners. Please, today we don't have anyone who was able to read for us the comments. I actually closed that panel. I didn't see any. Just know we appreciate your comments. We appreciate you joining us. And we'll see you again. Same time, same place next Sunday. Thank you and goodbye. Miss Judith,
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Take care.
thank you.